Okay. Hi, everybody. We are live right now with Ian. We had a couple of audio issues, which is why I am laughing. But if the audio drops or anything, we'll fix it. It'll be better than our last one because last time we did this, the audio was so bad.
I think I dropped out majority of our last chat.
Yeah, and awkwardly had to come back in, and then I was like, what were we saying? Because I had to fill the space in between. So then I was like, what were you talking about? And it was a mess.
Right.
So anyways, today, last time we were chatting about how we got into data and what our, kind of journeys were. And today, as kind of an extension of that, we have both now written stuff. We both happen to write a book called How to Become a Data Analyst, which is funny. We both have kind of written stuff on how other people can become data analysts, and we create content about it a lot. And so I thought it'd be nice to just chat, because I've learned that as I chat with other content creators in the data space, we end up saying really helpful things. We talk about how, oh man, everybody thinks that they need to learn Python to get an entry-level job. I get that message all the time, and then you don't need to. And so I thought, why not just have these chats but then live stream them is the fundamentals behind it.
It's funny. We do have the same title, but I don't like comparing them too much because yours is way longer than mine. Mine's just like a small little ebook. I haven't read yours yet, but I looked at the page count and it's like 10x mine, so it's definitely a lot longer.
Yeah, it's a book. I sent it to Alex, the analyst, because he's in it, and he responded back, oh, that's like a book.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
So do you have anything that you want to say before we get kicked off here?
Nothing specifically. If you already have some questions we could go through, that's fine with me.
Yeah. You know that I'm not a formal interviewer type. I haven't seen anything come up in the chat, but I just opened it in LinkedIn, and it looks like there are a couple people. So if you are in the chat and saying hi, I will try and spotlight you. But if it doesn't come up in my chat, then I can't do it. So anyways. Okay,
there's a couple
first one. Yeah. I have a million questions. Okay, well, John, ask your million questions. And I'll give you a link. I don't know how to pronounce this person's name, but I will put a link to the book later in the chat. Okay, so first thing that I'd love to hear from you about writing the book is just how did you, or the guide, and then you have lots of other little add-on things that you do. How do you approach, so you're a content creator, which means you're consistently getting feedback of DMs and replies and comments and stuff. So what was your kind of method for kind of wrangling, okay, did you just say, here's my story and I'm going to tell it? Or did you say, okay, here's the top 10 things that I keep getting questions about, and I'm going to put it into a guide? How did you approach that?
So it was, I think it was kind of shortly after I landed my first data role. So it was very fresh on my mind of exactly what I did to become a data analyst. Obviously, with anything, there's always that little part of it that's luck, that you can't really, make more luck. If you could, that would be amazing. But I just kind of went through what I did exactly, now down to the exact courses I took, the website I used, Udemy, because when courses go on sale, you could buy them forever. So it was very inexpensive. And then I was looking at what job descriptions were saying that they require. And a lot of it wasn't Python, which a lot of the internet tells you it should be Python, a lot of Python. But as you start looking at these job descriptions, they are always nice to have. So they're not a job requirement. Obviously, there's some outliers that's essential for the job, but majority of jobs don't really need it. So I wasted a lot of time on that. And that was I just wanted a straightforward way of what I did so other people don't have to waste time kind of like I did. I'm sure it somewhat helped me learn SQL, knowing how to Python, knowing how to code in Python a little bit. But yeah, you could spend as long as it takes to learn SQL, Excel, Power BI, or Tableau. You could spend all that time in Python, efficient enough for a like full-time role. But
yeah,
so that's
yeah,
kind of my approach. Is look what I did and went from there.
Yeah, I agree. That was kind of, I told them when I wrote my book, listen, it's got to be both my story and how to do it. It won't just be how to do it. I can't, a lot of Wiley books are like very technical. And I said, my story's got to be like half of the book, because that's the beneficial thing too, to hear like, you know, oh, those SQL interviews, man, I was so scared, you know, like hearing that is just as beneficial as like hearing that you need to know SQL. So I saw this one, which goes well with what you were saying here. I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I'm not going to try it. But they said, what is the fastest way to find a data analyst job without experience and without a university degree? So I'll start on this. I think that I think there's two pieces to your question here. One, the fastest way, I just want to like warn you to be careful, because like the fastest way doesn't always mean the best way. I think that you can, a lot of times I've seen people kind of shoot into the field really quickly and get a really, really entry-level job that doesn't pay as much as they want, that doesn't use like a lot of exciting skills. And then they feel that they're kind of stuck there and it's hard for them to make that next step. Whereas sometimes if you kind of learn more of a foundation of skills and build a portfolio, then you can maybe start like a little bit higher. So I would just be careful, like the fastest way, usually just to me, it just sounds hacky. A lot of like content creators will be like, this is the fastest way. And I'll be like, you're just trying to get clicks. So I would warn you on that one. And then without the university degree part, I have seen a lot of people become data analysts without a university degree, but I do think that having a degree is helpful. So I want to like caveat my story with, I do have a master's degree. It's just not in a STEM field. So I don't have a STEM degree at all. It's in occupational therapy, which is like working with people, working with kids. But do I think that having a master's degree on my resume, like in general, is helpful? Probably also helpful for career progression. So just like when you're benchmarking yourself to other people, and if you don't have a degree, just like if you hear someone who does have a degree, be like, I got a job, and like just understand that you're coming from different places, you have different skills, and you have to learn to leverage those different skills. You can say, these are the things that I do know how to do really well, even if it's not data. So a little bit of a monologue, but Ian, do you want to?
I'm kind of on the other side of that. I don't have a degree, but the fastest way, I like to say it's kind of up to the person. What's fast to me is different than you. So fastest way would be, you could learn your core skills. You still have to do a portfolio, just like everyone else. If you have a degree or not, you need a portfolio. Learn the basics of SQL, Excel, Power BI or Tableau. They're all free. And build a portfolio and start sending out your resume. That's really like the fastest way you can do it. But it's probably not going to be fast no matter what, unless you get lucky. It still might take months to even get through one interview at one company, because you're looking at an average of like 4 rounds of interviews, and you just got to ace them all to get that job offer. A degree, I think you don't really need a degree to get it, but I agree with Annie, it does help, because some companies will just filter you out automatically. Degree, you need it, it's a requirement. There's certain companies that are like that. It's less and less nowadays, but that is still a thing. So it just limits you a little bit, and that's how I see it.
Yeah. I also, on the kind of fastest, I know I just said people who say fastest is hacky, but also the whole reason that I wrote my book and I have my content and I have these coffee chats, I have a whole channel on YouTube, you can check out the whole thing, Ian and I have talked before, is because I think that there's just so many things that I did that took me a long time figuring out, oh, I need to have a LinkedIn, it needs to be optimized, and oh, where do I get free data, and where do I host my portfolio, and do I need to take a Python course? I took a whole month to take a Python course and then didn't use that at all. Yeah. So you can make it much faster if you go to the materials that are available to you. And I'm not saying you have to buy my book or you have to buy Ian's book. We definitely put everything that you need to know in it. Like I wrote a whole actual real book on exactly that question to hopefully cut it like in half. But there's free TikToks from me. There's LinkedIn from both of us. There's YouTube from both of us. Ian, don't you have a newsletter?
Yeah, I got a newsletter. I got a little checklist you can download for free that kind of keeps you focused on what technical skills and how many portfolio projects you need and all that stuff. So there's definitely free resources out there. It's just how much time do you have to dedicate towards upskilling is probably how fast you can land a job.
Yeah. So to tack onto that, this one, I know that Matt and Mike has a checklist that has like exact technical skills. Do you have a checklist that has exact technical skills in it too?
No, mine's just like learn Excel or
Right,
something like that.
So you use Excel much more than I do. I would say pivot tables. The only thing that I've used Excel for is pivot tables, which was a learning curve. But how about you? You've used it more than I have. So
pivot tables are like your go-to technical interview scenario if it requires Excel during that like technical interview. But the most common or most used function I used was like sum ifs, or even like an XLOOKUP or VLOOKUP or index match. Those are all super important if your role requires Excel.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's like 20 other ones, but I would use those daily when I used them every day.
Yeah. I know when I make personal tables, I think being able to use conditional formatting is really important to like color things conditionally, but that's for like, my travel itineraries and stuff. So we got a lot of good questions in here, and I have definitely not read them all. I'm just kind of moving down. You have to move your chat over just to remind you if you want to actually see the chat, you have to like press a button, Ian. This one here, what can a career path growth for a data analyst be if you could guide? That's great. So I'm guessing that you're meaning like after that first step. So it's interesting because I had this question initially and I actually didn't think about it a ton again until I was writing my book, and then I wanted to have like a whole section on it. So I started really thinking like what comes next if you want to move from data analyst, like what comes next after that. So what I found was that you can kind of go up through the data analyst path, which means you can stay on the individual contributor track and move up to be like a principal or a staff level data analyst, which means you're not managing people, you're just working on projects, which is the direction that I currently am going with my career. You can also move into management, so manager, director of data, VP of data, all the way up into kind of like chief data officer is that like top of the line data person. But you can also think about transitioning into data science, and you can think about transitioning into data engineering. You can go into data project management, data product management. Project and product are two different things. You can go into generally product or project management that's not directly related to data. You can become an account executive. So once you're in the door, especially if you have like a good foundation of tech skills and like experience at a tech company, and you kind of like can niche down to, okay, now I know marketing or now I know sales. There's a lot of ways to branch out. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I think you kind of named everything you can do. Yeah, I'll just kind of add on to that to where it depends on the person on what path you want to take. I like to say get into the field first and then lean or double down on the skills that resonate with you. And then that can guide you towards the path you want. So if it's more, maybe you really do enjoy Python. And that might lead you to a data science role down the line. So it's just, I think it's more skill specific, but as a legit career progression, I think what you said was kind of perfect.
Okay. This is the person who asked earlier about the degree thing. So actually, I think, so you have a university degree in project management. That's helpful. It's not, it's not impossible without it, but that's definitely helpful. This one, I love this question because I get it a lot. I took the Google course, but it's been about a year. Where do I start again? The thing is, like the Google course doesn't get you a job anyways. And so like when you finish the Google course, even if it was yesterday, you have kind of a lot of work to do. And I think that middle zone is the hard part. I think that a lot of courses cover the SQL and the Excel and the Tableau, the Power BI. But that middle zone of like building a portfolio, working on your LinkedIn, networking, tech interviews, was always going to be kind of the tricky part. So my advice would be to refresh your skills on the, like refresh your SQL skills, refresh your Excel skills, and start building a portfolio. And then again, come back to the resources that we've both made, and we like our content that we make, because we help kind of fill in those gaps of like all the questions that you have of that middle zone. And so it's not so hard. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, it's a good foundation to learn if you've never even known about data analytics. But it's also a very long course. I was going to start it when it first got released, but then I started looking into it, and I just really wanted to learn the actual technical skills, and I wanted a deeper dive on SQL or Tableau or something like that. And that's what the full courses you'd get from like Udemy or something like that would really come in handy, because that's more in line of what you need to know on the job or even to get through interviews.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a comment that I just saw that I wanted to spotlight. I think it was the same person. Do you know where I can find some guided projects that I can do while I learn? I have a guided project in Tableau that I did on YouTube as part of my book. But you don't have to buy the book to get the guided project. It's just, and there's more guided projects in my book. But Maven Analytics has free data sets and really good guided projects. And then Alex, the Analyst on YouTube, has some really amazing guided projects. And I really like the SQL ones, because those were the hardest ones for me to get my head around how to do a SQL project. And he keeps all of the code that he does on the screen in a GitHub repository, so you can go and like look at all the queries that he ran, and then see how you would structure it for if you kept your SQL somewhere. So those are my favorite places for guided projects. How about you, Ian? Do you have any extras?
My first ever guided project was Alex the Analyst one. I always recommend, it's kind of unguided a little bit, but Maven Analytics with their monthly dashboard competitions, that's a great way to get inspiration. It's all free, and then you have a chance to win something, which is pretty awesome. It's kind of unguided because it doesn't show you step by step, but they give you business questions to answer with your dashboard. And I think that's one hurdle that a lot of people don't know how to come up with those questions, especially when you haven't been in the field. That's a difficult part. And Maven Analytics, does that for you. So that's where I would start.
Yeah. I get this question all the time. Can you get a freelance job without job without any experience? Do you get that question all the time, Ian?
Yeah.
What's your answer?
Because I did it myself too. I did freelance to get real world experience. It is difficult. It's a very slow start. You have to know how each platform works so you can market yourself the best you can. So for instance, I had most success on Fiverr. I didn't do $5 gigs. I did $50 minimum, probably for like an hour. That's kind of how I gauged my rate. But there's little things like you keep your browser open on the background because people can filter by online only. So maybe they're looking for that, and have a really stellar gig kind of portfolio, because you could throw in screenshots of stuff. So you kind of have to do a little work in the background. But if you have really cool visuals, you have keywords in your descriptions, and you're always online, you'll land a gig every now and then it'll just kind of snowball.
Yeah, and those things are not like a full-time job. Those are just like gigs, so you can like have something to put on your resume, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And a little money in your pocket, but it's not even part-time job money worth. But
yeah. So what are the basics of SQL, Tableau, and Excel, I actually think that this is the right place to ask. The right place to ask that question is in a course. So I say take a course and then stop taking courses. Take a course to learn SQL, take a course to learn Tableau, take a course to learn Excel, and then stop taking any more courses on that subject. But also the reason that I say that and won't guide you to a specific course is because pretty much every single course out there for getting into data analytics that teaches you SQL, Tableau, Excel, it's all the same basics. It's not like basics are different over here and different over here. There's no kind of moving bar. I think everyone kind of agrees on what the basics are. And so take a course, any course.
Yeah, really, because the beginner courses are going to teach you what's possible in each one of those tools. And from there, as an analyst, you should figure out what you need to use to make your project work. And that's kind of how the real world works too. You got a problem, you need to know how to fix it with these tools.
This LinkedIn user, I don't know what your name is, we will link it later. Both of our books are named How to Become a Data Analyst. Mine's on Amazon. You can find it from my page, and Ian's is on his page. You can find it from his page. We got a lot of questions this time. I'm really liking this. I'm just going to read the question. Read while walking and talking. I did my best. Let's see. Yeah. Somebody said, I did the Google course, having a hard time getting through it. Too wordy and not enough hands-on for me. I've heard that before. But like every course is different. Some courses are less. But I would say on that point, the most valuable thing that you're going to do as a data analyst is not the technical stuff. It's the communication, it's the critical thinking, it's the managing different projects and stuff. And I think that the Google course, a lot of the fluff in there is actually talking about like managing multiple priorities and like communicating with stakeholders. So I know in this moment in time, the only thing you're concerned about is learning the technical skills, but it's worth trying to absorb that stuff because later when you get to interviews and you get to your first job and then your second job, those skills are what are going to get you promoted. Those skills are what's going to get you a job, not necessarily the technical skills.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking about this morning. It's weird as a content creator. I'm like, I do want to provide value and get those engagements. So it, more impressions, more engagement. But the stuff that's really important is like how to interview, because a technical round is one of the 4 rounds that you have. The other ones are just as important, if not more important, because you won't get to your technical round if you can't handle a behavioral question, or even a panel where you have behavioral questions back to back to back. So but no one likes to see that on LinkedIn, but that's very, very important.
Yeah. Talking about how, building relationships with stakeholders is really the thing that's like been making me good at my job would get almost like very few impressions, I'd say, on LinkedIn. But if I say 5 SQL functions you need to know in order to get your first data job, it'll get like 20 reposts, all people care about the easy stuff. This one, I have a master's in business analytics, a couple years experience as an analyst. Having trouble getting callbacks for more data science oriented work. I can't tell you anything about data science, but I can say that Jess Ramos, another content creator, has a master's degree in data analytics. I know that she has done A/B testing at her work, which I don't know if she uses SQL or Python for that, but it is more advanced data analytics. So maybe follow her because she has some good tips. I think she did a internship in graduate school, which helped bring her to her first job. Also, I do have a coffee chat in my YouTube playlist with Jess. It's free if you want to watch our coffee chat. Trying to go back and forth. Can you see the chat too, Ian, or are you just along the ride?
Both. and to tack onto that, if you're having a hard time getting callbacks, that's not just data science related. That's everywhere in data. You have a lot of competition, and what you should do is kind of test out different resumes or your approach on how you send in your application. Maybe it's different cover letters or something like that, but record the data and double down on what's working. So that's kind of, and you could probably use that as a project for your portfolio. But yeah, I think focusing on what works is your best bet.
So this one says, in the initial days of starting out, would you recommend like a learn as you go approach with taking online courses aligned with the work you've been given and the project you assigned? I would say on this one, like this kind of ties to a question that I get a lot of like, do I need to do industry specific projects in order to get like an industry specific job? And it just really depends. I think like the outline that I laid out, that I've laid out for people is to first learn the skills and don't think about even the business questions. First, you need to understand like, oh, I know how to use a backs function in SQL or Excel. So that's the first step. And then the second step would be to then apply it to any sample data set. Even if it's just a really common one that everyone else uses, that's fine. Can I answer business questions in this data set using the skills I've learned? Get your portfolio out there. At that point, get your LinkedIn ready. Maybe start applying to jobs. And then if you're not getting applications to jobs, then you might say, okay, what is it that I'm lacking here? Oh, am I really interested in marketing and I'm applying to marketing jobs, but I don't have any marketing projects? Okay, so I'm going to go find marketing data and I'm going to do projects on it. But you can kind of do that back and forth. And that's what I did. I started applying to jobs and then realized, oh, my Tableau skills are like not very good at all. So I took a course from maybe in analytics. And then my first job ended up being all Tableau. So thank God I did that. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, industry specific, I think it depends, like you said. I would probably lean in, if you like, say, marketing, I would probably do some marketing projects for that. I think it does stand out a little bit because it shows that kind of domain experience. But I do the opposite personally to get my jobs, because my dashboard on my Tableau public is unrelated to anything because I made the data set myself. It's the alien one. So it's very made up, but I kind of solve a made up business question with that data. And I did this because it's super unique and I want it to stand out even more. So that's just kind of like what I did personally.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked that when you did that, you were like, I made this data set and I offered other people to do projects on it, because I think like if you think about it from the interviewer's perspective, they have, how many interviews do they have? I mean, let's say you're applying to a remote entry-level data analyst job, you're probably one of thousands of applicants, right? And so then they get through the screenings maybe, and maybe the interviewer talks to 40 different people. Like, that's boring. I'd be bored with that. And so what's going to make you stand out? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, I have 5 years of data analytics experience and a master's in data analytics, because then you wouldn't be applying to that position anyways. But, oh, actually, like, I really thought, like, I'm really interested in this subject, so I went and found data on it. Or like, oh, I made it this data set, or like anything, that makes you stick out in their mind, leaves a good impression.
Absolutely.
Got one. This is a good one. I get a lot too. You want to take it first, Ian?
Nowadays, I would go to ChatGPT.
Yes.
100%. It's the easiest way. Back when I did it, I had to look up, I look up the STAR method, situation, task, action, result, and form your answers with that methodology. Nowadays, you can go to ChatGPT and ask it, give me 5-star data related questions and answers, and format it in the STAR method, and it will bullet point it out for you. And all you have to do is put in your own experience in there. So it's your answer. Don't just take what it says and read that as your answer. But that would be the best way I would do it now. And that's kind of what I did for my last interview too. So it works.
Yeah. So you have a couple of online sites you can practice SQL. There's SQL Island, SQL Murder Mystery. I think there's one other, I don't remember the name of it. There is Data Lemur, which has practice SQL questions. Alex, the analyst from YouTube, just started a website called Analyst Builder where you can take courses. I got the beta access and it was really cool. Like he did a good job with the courses, and he has a questions tab. So he has practice SQL interview questions, even ones that would challenge me in there, and easier ones. You don't have to know SQL in order to start using his stuff. And I think something called Elite Code and Status Scratch or something are all places that I've heard for SQL interview questions. Tableau and Power BI, because I have seen like case studies and stuff. If you go to Maven Analytics, their free data sets, they have monthly challenges. And so each of them have like a business set of business questions they want you to answer. And then what people will do is they'll submit a Tableau dashboard to like the competition, but you don't have to compete. But that kind of like scenario, let's say you're given a pizza shop, they want to know about their sales and everything. They have questions they are curious about. That would resemble like a take home interview where you like maybe use Tableau to make like a mock-up or something, or they ask you, how would you go about this? That's a good way to practice that stuff. And then, of course, the ChatGPT thing. I'm glad you said that, Ian, because I actually forgot. I wrote an entire chapter in my book about how to use ChatGPT to help you ace your data interviews, and completely forgot. But I put in here like the prompts and the responses. I actually tested it out because I wanted to make sure it worked. And I was using my phone. So you can use your phone, like, you know how you can like do speech to text?
Yeah.
I think you can talk to ChatGPT now. I'm not even sure, but at the time you couldn't.
Yes.
And so what I did is I said, okay, here's the situation. I'm applying to a data analyst job. I fed in a sample job description from a job I'd applied to in the past because I used Teal, which is a thing where you can like track all your jobs. It's free. So I went back, found an old job description, put it in there, said I'm applying to this job for a data analyst role, kind of put my resume and stuff in and said, what kind of questions do you think I might be asked? And then asked it to ask me behavioral questions. And then I gave it a response. I spoke a response into my phone. And then I asked it to give me feedback on it, like using the STAR method that Ian mentioned, how I did on it based on the STAR method. And I thought it did a really good job. I actually copied some of those excerpts and put them right into the book to like show people what it could look like. So I think you have to be specific in asking your question, because if you just say like, ask me STAR interview questions, it might not be very good. Or, if you don't specify like what you're looking for it to do, it might not be as good. So putting in all the context of the job description, the resume, and this and that, then you're really off to the races.
Yeah, that's more than I did. But awesome, it helped. It's I like to say, let's say you do 10 of them and you memorize how to answer those questions, no matter what questions they are. It starts to help you like rewire how you answer any question thrown your way. So those are really helpful to learn. And kind of to tack on like the technical interview websites, if it's an entry-level role, you don't have to go crazy and like figure out the hard ones. You're probably gonna like have very simple SQL questions if that's in your technical round. But just having the confidence on knowing what to do in those scenarios is definitely helpful. And that's where I fail even today. Like my brain shuts off during technicals and I can't help it.
Yeah. I was watching recently, Sophie Tucker, a DJ that I really like, did a live stream from like a helicopter in New York City. And because they do live streams. And I was like, man, a live stream from a helicopter? How cool would that be? But what would I do for data? And I was like, what if they did like a SQL interview, technical interview, like, live streaming from a helicopter? They also did one on like a safari. And then I was like, wait a minute, Annie. You do not know SQL well enough to get yourself into that situation. That would be a bad idea. I actually, in my first round of interviews, so I have my second job as a data analyst right now, and I didn't have to do any SQL interviews necessarily. I mean, I talked about SQL with an interviewer, but in the first round, I had some really easy ones. Any ones where I was like writing SQL live were very easy, like just doing maybe a join and understanding how to like limit and sort and stuff. But I did have one that was like an online thing, and it was really hard. And it didn't involve any CTEs, if you guys have learned about what CTEs are yet, where it's kind of multiple queries and then you bring them together, which I actually like because the logic of it, but it didn't involve that. It was just like like they wanted you to use some like really difficult, random, obscure functions that I had not used before. I think I had to use lead and lag and something else. And afterwards, I was talking to an interviewer, like in a follow-up interview, and I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't even know. I don't even know. Like, I'm surprised I got a call back because that was so hard." And they were like, "Oh, it's intentionally really hard because we want to see how you like think through the problem because we can see all of the things you type. So we wanted to see like the way you thought through it." So if it is really hard, it might be trying to assess your critical thinking and not necessarily your like rote memorization of SQL.
Yeah, and lead and lag for the first year of my first role, I never even touched it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have known that either.
Yeah, there another thing on the interview prep thing that I'd say is helpful is a lot of times people will come onto LinkedIn for the first time because they're trying to become a data analyst. They get onto LinkedIn, they see someone like me or Ian, and they connect immediately. And they're like, "Hey, can we have a coffee chat so you can tell me about your story?" And it's like, "Hello, nice to meet you. I have a bio. I have 10 featured posts. I have blogs. I have coffee chats. I have a TikTok, and I have a book. So please start there." But also, what I would recommend is if you go onto LinkedIn and you see someone post something about like maybe how difficult SQL is and how they overcome it, and that really resonates with you, and it's someone like me or Ian, then look in the comments because there's probably going to be other people in there like, "This is so helpful. I'm trying to learn this right now." Connect with those people and ask those people for a coffee chat, and then talk to them about your projects and the skills that you know. Because, and I've said this a bunch of times, so if you've listened to me on a stream before, you've probably heard me say it, but if the first time you talk about your technical skills is in a technical interview, you're probably going to fumble. You're probably going to say the wrong things, not have the right words. I think Megan, who's a content creator on here, was saying how her first SQL interview, she started explaining how you would join rows instead of joining columns, and the interviewer just ran with it. And so if you have practice talking to somebody else about what you're working on, no matter who it is, but especially if they like have any understanding of it, it's not just like your mom who's never done it before, then you'll be much smoother during your interviews than if the first time you've ever actually put words to what you're doing is like in an interview in which you've probably blacked out, because I black out.
Every time. Yeah, I had one question was describe all of the joins.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never said them out loud. Like I know them, but I've never really like explained it to anybody else. I've learned it through courses and projects, but I've never said them out loud. So that was a weird one for me I got through it, but it was like, I really had to think on that one.
Yeah. Weird. This question is good. What do you do when you're asked a technical question and you truly don't know the answer? Also, hi, we know each other. I actually, in my interview for my first job, I made a mistake, and they asked me a question about it. Like, it was essentially, I was presenting a dashboard that I had made that I'd worked really hard on, actually. And I had not synchronized the axes in Tableau. So one of the axes was ending at, let's say, 5,000. The other one was ending at 50. So it was painting a really wrong picture. And so they asked me about it, and I didn't know the answer. And I was pretending to be the consultant at this point in time. And I responded, and I was like, honestly, that's a great catch. I don't know. And so I will take a look at that, and then I can follow up and get back to you later on it. And then later I got the feedback from like my boss that the people interviewing me all really liked that, because rather than trying to like pretend and fake my way through it and be like, yeah, I know the answer, I was able to admit what I didn't know. And like, as an entry-level data analyst, there's a lot you don't know. That's the whole point of being an entry-level data analyst. And so you're expected to come to your boss. I mean, I still am. I was talking to my manager just the other night about like, where's the line between like being really self-sufficient, but then like also asking for help when I'm just doing the same thing over and over and it's not working. So just admitting it won't get you any technical points, but it probably will get you personal points.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was going to say, just own up to it. If you don't know it, don't try to pretend like you know it, because if you're with someone who is technically savvy, they'll know the truth or not, like right away. Yeah. I like to say, if it's just something I truly don't know, in this scenario, I would probably Google it because that's what you would do in the real world on the job.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT, you would Google it, you'll figure it out. Just be resourceful.
Yeah, I told them in my interviews for this job that I really have a lot of experience now in Tableau. I can do a lot with it. And for SQL, I've used it. I can use it, but I can read it a lot better than I can speak it. And I use ChatGPT to help me. And I was just honest. I was just honest about that, just upfront about it, because like I don't need to be good at everything. And what they needed from this job is my set of skills. That's why I got the job. So just being like honest and upfront about it. Okay, we got to the end of the chat of the questions.
Wow.
I had another question that I was wondering about with the book stuff for you. So since you put out your guide and your checklist and stuff, has there been any feedback to you that somebody has said, oh, I really love that you did this, that has surprised you? Or have you just been in general surprised by like really good feedback or even not good feedback?
I think the feedback I get, which doesn't really happen too often, like let's say my ebook, for example, the only responses I really get are like, I love the book, so it's not really feedback. It's just, thanks. But the only thing that stands out is people like how straightforward it is. And I don't kind of like try to fluff it up with anything unnecessary. But yeah, I ask a lot of the community. Sometimes I do polls of what people would like to see from my content. Like recently, it was Tableau specific on like YouTube videos and stuff like that. But yeah, I just kind of don't get too much feedback or critical feedback. So that's a tough one to answer.
Yeah, I have been, everyone who has messaged me and said that they have bought my book or read my book, I have said, thank you so much. I would love your feedback. And if they have bought it and read it, I'll also send them like a private personal coffee chat link so we can like chat about it. And so I've talked to a couple people so far, and it's been really interesting to just hear what things were valuable to them. Like one person said, I'm really glad that you included the video. So basically, for context on this, the first part of the book is about like learning the skills. So like how I went about learning the skills. I don't recommend specific courses necessarily, but like how to find a good course and stuff. And then the second section is about portfolios. And while I was writing the portfolios section, I was also building my portfolio because I was trying to find a new job. And so I thought, you know what, this is a good opportunity. So I made a project it's a project in Tableau that shows like a Tableau dashboard, first dashboard, beginner dashboard, intermediate, and regular user, each of the different levels on the same data set with kind of the same themes. So you can like compare between them. And then I made a video explaining kind of the different levels. And I also made a guided project on YouTube as like your first project and then how to like upgrade it. So I had a couple of videos that I made for the book, but then also for my portfolio, which was a funny little thing that happened coincidentally. And I wasn't sure how helpful it was going to be because like, I don't know, I've never read a book before that had like free stuff on YouTube that like went along with it, but it was the first thing that he said. I was like, I love that you did the videos. So helpful. It really resonated with me. I was like, okay, well, there we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember when you were just building out that project. I think you mentioned about it like half a year ago now. It was a while.
Yeah, it was. It was like in March. Yeah. John said he had to step away, missed all the answers to his questions. This will be available later here on LinkedIn and on my YouTube channel, so you can come back to them. This person said they were torn between the different kind of data disciplines and then somehow ended up in data governance. And it's so funny because it feels like data governance is like the younger, like ugly step sibling of all the other data things, not because it's actually bad, but because like maybe it's a Cinderella.
Nobody talks about
it. Nobody talks about it. I think Mark Freeman just came out. He's a content creator on LinkedIn. He just came out with a company and a lot of stuff that he does, I think, surrounds the data governance space. But otherwise, like, you have to work to find stuff on data governance. So I really don't have much recommendations. I think data governance is super important. And in the world of AI that we're entering into, having really well-governed data is going to be crucial, because you can't let AI loose on your data set and have it bring you insights unless you know that your data set is like organized and cataloged and there's descriptions and stuff, because it needs to know what it's looking at. So governance, super important, but I don't know, have anything to say about it.
Yeah, and I think with his statement, I don't know if he wants to go into analytics, science, or engineering.
Yeah, well, if you're trying to get out of it and into something else, I'd say data analytics you can definitely get into at entry level, especially if you have some governance experience. And then a lot of people think that they can go from data analytics to data science, and I'm not going to say that it's not possible, but I will say it's not as easy as it sometimes is painted to be. They really are different disciplines. And like, I have leaned into the business side of data analytics. And so I don't even feel like data science would be like a next step for me, because it's just kind of really different. And like, I know someone who is a director of data science at like a pretty good company, and they said they will not hire people unless they have at least a master's degree in data science. So it's not like I'm a senior data analyst and now I can become a data scientist. However, on the flip side, data engineering, I do see like data analytics to analytics engineering and data engineering is like a pretty common pipeline.
Yeah, definitely. Because depending on what role you're in or what company you're in, you'll be doing a lot of data engineering yourself anyways, because you're going to clean the data. Obviously, there's more to engineering than just cleaning, but that's at least one part of it.
Yeah. I saw, Diane, let's put a job description. Oh yeah, Diane. The chat is a little delayed for us from what you guys are seeing. She puts the job descriptions in her resume for ChatGPT, I'm imagining, to ask it questions.
Yeah. I've done that to create a cover letter before.
Yes. And oh my gosh, I've used ChatGPT to help me, and I put this in the book, to like write to my recruiter, like, hey, I got another job offer. Can you up my offer? And that kind of stuff. Everything now. It's like everything goes through ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Have your AI contact my AI is a joke that I heard the other day. I saw this comment, and there's somebody's having a hard time getting into data analytics. I just wanted to say, LinkedIn user, that I have been there and Ian has been there. I started applying to data jobs in, I think like the end of April, May of 2022. And I didn't get my first job until the end of July. So that was several months, which some people go longer. I'm not saying it was like a super long time. It felt super long for me. And the first month was like just straight rejections, just lots of rejections. I wasn't hearing back from a lot of companies. Places were ghosting me. And I had a night where I literally was like, I'm done. I can't do this. I have 20,000 followers on TikTok waiting to see if I can get a data job. And I'm going to have to tell them all. The answer is no. I couldn't do it. I failed. And then I texted my friend about it, and I was just like really down in the dumps. And they were like, hey, you started doing this because you loved data analytics. You still love it. And I would hate to see you just throw that away. So like, I just want you to like remember what you're here for. And so that was the moment that I went, okay, maybe I'll like refresh my mindset, work on some projects. I didn't have a lot of projects. So I went back to the drawing board, took a Tableau course so I could like up my skills, did some fun, cool projects. And that is around the same time my interviews started turning around, because now I had projects and I was talking about data in an excited way. And I was also creating content on LinkedIn about it, which was helpful to get some inbound leads. So that, I would say, we've been there. A lot of people have been there. It does suck, and I empathize with it. But that's kind of how I got out of it. Do you want to?
Yeah, that's it's not you, it's not us. That's everyone trying to get into data has gone through that same thing. It took me hundreds of applications to land my first role. And when we first joined this chat, I said a lot of it was luck, and you can't control that luck. So I kind of paint the picture of every application is kind of like scratching a lottery ticket, because you just don't know if that will be the job or the company that gives you a job offer. There's no way of knowing, and it will just happen one day, and that goes for anybody. So just keep chugging along every single day and try to stay positive. It sucks, I know it, especially if you're going through multiple different companies and having interviews and waiting 2 weeks to get to the next round, or wait 2 weeks just to hear that you're not being moved on. Like, all of that really sucks. There's no other word for it. But just try to keep going. You probably already put a lot of effort into it now, and it'd be a waste to just stop.
Yeah, I think it was Chris French. I saw a post from recently that said he had spent like 25 hours on a take-home test or something, and then like didn't even move to the next interview round.
It's like been an intense take-home test.
Yeah, well, I know that I've done one for my second round of interviews. I did one Tableau take-home test that I did spend quite a bit of time on, because it was like I've interviewed for very few companies my second time around, because I like reached out to my network. Ian, you were one of the people, I'm sure, that you heard from me. Said, hey, my job kind of sucks right now, looking for a new one. The writing's on the wall. And so just through networking, so I probably only applied like formally or informally to like 20 or 30 jobs. And they were really targeted, like, oh, I really want this job. So the one job that I did spend like an entire Sunday afternoon on that technical interview, which was like a Tableau take-home thing. It was because I was like, I really want this job. It's worth it. But I don't know if I would do that for just any run-of-the-mill job.
Yeah, it's that's too much. But to kind of tack onto that a little bit, my role that I got like 6 months ago was through networking. I didn't do hundreds of applications. I did like 10.
Yeah.
And then I had 4 interviews and then a job offer.
Yeah.
So, but, and I haven't announced this yet, but I have a new job, and I did the same method I did last time of networking to get this job. And it worked just as well. So I try not to, I did a post on this, like, I think this week, of it's not a spray and pray on the job board anymore. You have to network to kind of get into data nowadays.
They say your network is worth your net worth, or something like that. I totally butchered that quote, but it's something to do with your network and your net worth, or something in there. I also, like, with the spray and pray, I think that, like, when you're getting into data for the first time and you have absolutely no connections in data, when you hear these people say you should network, it feels very overwhelming, because it's like, how am I supposed to network? Annie, you have 60,000 followers. Sure, you go network, but I have 5 connections. How am I going to network? And I felt that way too in the past. And it's some people you will hear did get a job. They applied to 300 jobs and they did get accepted by one of them. No networking. Some people you will hear, I applied to 5 jobs, but I knew people and I got a job. You will hear a whole range of stories. Some people, easy apply on LinkedIn works really well for me. Other people, I never hear back from any easy apply jobs. And so there's a huge volume. There's a huge volume of people who are out there becoming data analysts, trying to become data analysts. And so you'll hear kind of every variation of every story. And so when this networking, I think this year the job market has been really competitive. So a lot of content creators are recommending, like, reach out to recruiters, build a network with people. Don't just send random people your resume and think that's networking, but actually build relationships with people and try and, comment on things and stuff. Because we have seen the highest probability of success with doing those things, but it's kind of a roll of the dice out there, really.
Yeah. And Megan just mentioned or asked a question, what networking looks like to us, which is kind of going along with what you were saying. Like, it's not just sending a connection request. It's putting a note with it, or at least if you're doing online networking. I know, Annie, you've had some success with in-person networking, which is I want to do more. But if it's online, you want to try not to make your first conversation with that person transactional. So you want to just say, hey, or we'll love to, maybe, I don't know, this is a tough one. You have to make it a custom message, use ChatGPT.
And then edit it, and then edit what it gives you. Don't just use it, period.
Edit it till you have a template that is not transactional, but is trying to like makes you unique, makes you stand out a little bit. So just to try to talk to them, because you want a response. You don't even know if they're the right person, and you want to like get them to send you a name to the right person. So what I do is kind of, if I apply to a company, I'll look at recruiters and I'll send all the recruiters a note. And then in hopes that they'll say, oh, I don't handle that job, go talk to this person. And then I talk to that person and say, hey, this person sent me your way. Let's have a chat. And then if they respond, you probably have an interview, hopefully.
Yeah, I personally, that kind of networking and reaching out to recruiters like makes me nauseous. It's funny, I actually like had written that in my book, and then my editor had written back in the comments like, it also makes me nauseous. We didn't put that in the book, but just it's universal. So I haven't done it. I've seen Michael Dillon puts out a lot of good content on that stuff. I see it being very useful for people who can do it and who do it successfully, but I haven't done pretty much any of that. I did in-person networking. So I went to the Tableau conference, which is where I found this job, but I've also been to, if you're in the New York City area, there's a low-key data happy hour. I think they also have some in California and Boston, like these low-key data happy hours. So in-person events, getting to know people in person, I think is like a really valuable thing. But also just like when I talk about networking on LinkedIn, like I have a really good network, and I'm not referring to the people who follow me. I'm referring to the people who I have reached out to, built up a relationship in the comments, either my comments or the comments of their posts, by, really just engaging with them. Because if you think about it, Ian and I, when we create content, like, and people reach out to us and like send us their resume, like that's not interesting to us. Like we're not here for, like to get you a job. We want to help. But if I make a post about like this Tableau tip or something, and then you comment on that post and you say, well, I used it in this way, and what do you think about this? That's stuff I'm interested in. So I'm going to remember that conversation because you talked to me about what I was interested in. So that kind of is my version of networking, where I like talk to people about what they're talking about. And eventually, if it goes on long enough, we have like a message where we'll chat about the things. And there's no ask for a job there. I'm not currently job seeking, but I do know that if I ever was looking for a job, then when I talk to those people, they'd be like, oh, Annie like really knew what she was talking about when we were talking about this subject a year ago. Maybe it would be really good to work with her. So to me, that's my version of networking.
Yeah. And that goes back to mine too. I'm not talking about my followers either about networking. I think the people I've reached out to, I look for posts that people are looking to hire to their team. And then I try to reach out and network with those people and see if they want to just have a chat first. I'm not asking to hire me, or I'm super skilled or anything like that. I'm sure there's 100 or 1,000 more people that are more skilled than me that are going to apply for that job, but I just want to chat. So if you get a response there, you probably are at least get your foot in the door.
Yeah. Okay. 12:59, my local time, for everybody. That was an hour. Can you believe it?
It's fast.
Yeah. This was good. This was, I love when people come in the chat and ask questions and we get to answer questions live like this. I love when people can do that. So maybe it was just the Friday before Christmas that freed some people up to come in midday and ask questions. I don't know, but do you have any last parting thoughts that you want to leave us with?
No, I guess, or maybe something, just kind of keep at it. The holidays, December's almost over. So probably January, there might be more positions opening up or companies looking for more people. So just look forward to that and keep applying. And, best of luck to everybody. Really.
Yeah, if you would like to see the stuff that Ian was talking about today that he's got, you can go to his profile. I'm sure that he's got it pinned. I have my stuff that I was talking about pinned in my featured section. So anything we talked about is there. And thanks everybody who came on the stream with us.
Oh, and one more thing. If anyone who is still here, if you want my ebook, just message me and I'll send it to you. Just for joining this, like an early Christmas gift.
Oh, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays.
If anyone wants that, just let me know.
Okay, I'm going to end the stream, but thank you, everybody, and see you next time.